So, you have the right crowd, you have the right process, now get the right question. Getting the question right is, first of all, something about purpose. And I took this picture. I lived in Bruges for a while, and there's a beautiful painting of an anatomy class there, but it doesn't exist in high resolution. So here I have Rembrandt for you. But luckily, maybe for you, because the Bruges picture is about the belly being opened, and you see all the intestines and everything. Now, what does it say, this picture and that picture, is that the purpose of the whole anatomy was different. One is the hand, one is the tummy. If you ask a question, the first thing is, what do you want to get out of it? What are you looking for? What intelligence is useful? So having an objective is the very first thing. Then the second thing is, construct it well. I'm taking these because they were the example, and I expected some of you will participate in this thing. But if you look at that question, it has a build-up of, and this is going back to your grammar classes almost of high school or primary school probably, but it's very important to think about subject matter. What is your action verb? What's your objective? What are the constraints and the references there? And I come back here with a few examples, because if you don't do that, you get ambiguous questions. This could be a question to you. Do you expect the crowdsourced energy market to take off? My question to you, raise your hands. Do you expect it to take off? A few hands raise it. You don't know my question. Because take off means what? To account for more than 30% of the energy supply? Maybe your hand will not be raised. Over the next 5 years, you may consider your answer in your own country. What I'm actually showing here is that if you don't get clear questions, you get very funny answers. And that's, in crowdsourcing, a condition sine qua non. This is actually thanks to a colleague of mine who sent it from Paris the other day. Questions and my reflex brain and my reflecting brain. I'm giving you here a few examples so that you just feel what the difference is between a good question and not. How satisfied are you about Crowdsource Weekly? If you ask that question now, you will probably translate it in your head to say, well, how much do I like it? And that's your quick reflex brain answering. But I didn't ask like, I asked satisfied. What was good about Crowdsource Weekly? Well, probably you think like, when was I awake? What was the presentation that I liked? What was really good about Crowdsource Weekly? Aha, you now have to start classifying. What did you learn at Crowdsource Weekly? Oof, not only classifying, you have to actually start ordering, compare with what you know. And what will you do differently after Crowdsource Weekly? Well, now I have to do transfer and apply this thinking. I'm just doing this because you are, with a question, you either trigger this fast brain or this slow brain in very different ways. And asking the right question is an art, and it's something I would say we spend a lot of time on. Now, that's the construct of the question, just like how you structure it. But the question needs to engage in a common purpose. If you ask a crowd a question, and it doesn't feel somewhere a common purpose or a common understanding or a picture where it's leading to, why would they bother answering? You need to be able to engage them. That's very, very important. And then you need to have impact. You think about the impact of your question and ask powerful questions. And this question, I think, is one of the most powerful we didn't develop it. We were part of that project. This is a German foreign minister who took responsibility 2 years ago, and I said, I want to know. And what was his question? I don't know for whom of you know German here, but the question basically says, what is wrong about German foreign policy? Now, this is the minister asking it. The moment he asked it, he actually opened the floor for all kind of critical thinking, reflective thinking. it's a very powerful question if you get that. And so it not only says what is wrong, if anything is wrong, and what should be changed. Now, we actually used that question with him to get all his embassy personnel from all over the world involved in answering the same question. He did it with experts, he did it with his own political arena, and he did it with citizens, he did it with his own personnel, and that's where we crowdsourced with him around that question. Now, questions, the impact of questions need to be triggering. And this is just the other day, it's a French client of us who said, well, I want to ask these questions. Well, let's go and do a project. These are the questions I have. That's what I want to ask. And I said, what is engagement for you as employees? Are you going to answer that when you get that question? Probably not. So just to tell you the difference is what gets you out of bed in the morning to come to work. That's something you probably answer. Think back when you had a really good day at work last month. What triggered this? That's what you're probably going to answer. So there you feel valued, and it's actually, you're touching the head, the heart, and the practical stuff. You're touching slow and fast thinking, and that's what you have to really think about. And then finally, sometimes you really have to ensure that the question is out of the box. I just put this one here, but it's sometimes you need to liberate the thinking and say, if you were the CEO, what would you do differently? A lot of the creative questions are in this arena as well. It's imagine you're the client, imagine you're this. It's extremely important. So I asked about the question, the structure of the question, the impact of the question. The third one is actually the flow of the question, because with one question, you don't have necessarily the answer. You need to really, when you listen and look and work with a crowd, spend your time to make sure that the crowd gets into the topic, warm up, is divergent in finding the different elements and explore different solutions or feedbacks, and at the end converges. And why? You need to also think about the energy level. It's like, do I keep them motivating and energized? And why is this so important is especially that you converge at the end. We've seen that when we do, and we did this a project with Shell where we did they were introducing a very big SAP project, and it was like SAP number 2, and we did with all the countries that were going through this project, synchrotron discussions, and we always asked them in the beginning, well, how do you look at this SAP project from, totally resistant to fully engaged? And then we asked them to share their fears and their hopes and what they think would make the project really go well, and get into saying, okay, what are the things we need to do first? So you go from this divergence to convergence. And at the end, we asked them again and said, well, how do you feel about this project? And mind you, we asked feel, not think. And you will see systematically 20% uplift in engagement. And we see this also in the way people talk. So when you're doing crowdsourcing, when you are asking patients to share their ideas, you're doing an intervention. These patients, their life changed, their ideas are going all over the world, or you're not just sourcing as though nothing is happening. It's like mining. You get something out, but something has changed over there. And I'm going to go through that well. And lastly, so we had the first three. The fourth point is actually the right attitude. Crowdsourcing, I talked about the impact you have on crowds. We've learned that really right from the beginning, at the moment of recruitment, it's extremely important what attitude did you show. And the attitude, there is this little book, Humble Inquiry, which is fantastic. It's 20 pages. It says a lot about that from Shine. But fundamentally, when you crowdsource, you can't look at the crowd as objects, as something you extract from. People are people. You need to respect them as subjects. You need to respect that they have an intelligence and that you're looking for that. And that is actually in your tone of your voice, it's the way you engage them, it's on the right questions, it's on respecting afterwards the results, making sure you do a follow-up on that. So crowdsourcing is an intervention. I'm not sure the timing there is right. So back to my question. Do intelligence questions create intelligence crowd? Yes, they can. And I've showed you it's actually deeply rooted in our DNA. There's a lot of biases and pitfalls you need to prevent. There's an incredible potential in crowds, and we've seen this all over again. Whenever we do this, the results are always surprising. There's always something new that people didn't know. There's always something more important than the other that people didn't know. And we've done this, if you look at the horse, the Belgian companies on there are our clients, and they have changed their strategy, they have changed their plans, basically because they were listening to employees and they were hearing something they didn't know was so important. Strong belief that intelligence comes through dialogue, getting the right questions, the right flow, and demonstrate respect. So I think that's there. There's an incredible intelligence. Jeanette, my colleague, said it already during the workshop. It's still very underexploited. Within organizations, within society, you get now people saying we need to involve the citizens. You get managers starting to listen. There's a lot of intelligence there which is not captured, and I think that's part of the movement we're part of. So thank you for your attention.